Hello, and thank you so much. It's really great to have people listening in and to be here with all these great artists. Yeah, the pandemic and this time of Corona has brought me back into the studio because I'm a full-time gallery director at the University of California, Santa Cruz at the Mary Porter Cezanne Art Gallery. So I work with artists all the time. I promote other people's work all the time. And um, the working from home allowed me to be back in my studio. And also many of you mentioned we started walking. I started walking the neighborhood and I was explaining that everything started to look like the coronavirus to me. Like I would photograph round flowers, round succulents, round seaweed. Everything was just blooming around me. And I don't know, I maybe became hyper aware of my surroundings and knowing that I couldn't kind of leave the neighborhood. And luckily I live in the beautiful Santa Cruz and I would walk to the beach and I used to collect seaweed and work with photographing seaweed. But now during the pandemic, I reached back into my archive of skills and I have an MFA in photography and alternative processes. So making a positive and negative print with a cyanotype is pretty much second nature to me. So I was able to work with seaweed from the beach and also pick up the dreadful headlines that we were seeing every day. And this was a New York Times headline: "Who lives, who dies?" And it has, you know, it's in Hamilton, it's in all sorts of things. But in this context, we were talking about our healthcare system. We were talking about the inequities in the United States and what did this pandemic bring out? It brought out all this hierarchy and who lives and who dies. And anyway, and this all was coming right after the death of George Floyd. So it seemed like it was a perfect storm. You know, all these things were happening to all of us, and we were witnessing it. So I and as an artist, I felt like I had to respond. So this time of Corona allowed me to um, voice my opinion and use contemporary events, and then also reach back into what I was comfortable with. With making positive, negative images. And before this series, I was working directly with seaweed and plastic, and thinking of all the plastic in the ocean, and so that series is, I'll probably pick that up again. But you can go to the next slide because I started doing a whole series of these. And actually I wanted to shout out to Robin Smith because the first one I did was for the print day in May. So that was May of 2020. And you know, I gave myself permission to make art again. So this one, another New York Times headline: "No one knows what's going to happen." And I just thought, that is so true. I was also preparing for the election. This piece kind of kept becoming relevant in different ways. And I also was teaching students and we were deciding, are we coming back to campus? And I would say, well, no one knows what's going to happen. And so anyway, and this was made with sand on cyanotype, or on light sensitive paper coated with cyanotype chemicals. So, and I just kind of kept with the circular shape again, because that seemed natural. And then the next one was another, you know, the world is broken. And at that point, you know, we were moving into things like the fires were happening and, you know, climate change. It was more than just the pandemic. You know, I really felt like the world is broken. And so this was made with grass from my front yard. And I did a whole series of all during the drought a few years back about everything that died in my yard. So I like to use objects close at hand that kind of make sense to me. And as you can see, these are 4 panels mounted on wood. And then we can look into the next slide and see. So I also, I mean, my text and image work is, I feel I have a more political voice, but I'll just show you the black sun flower was that's what I would take photos of on my daily walks. And all those photos I would take were just with an iPhone, and just, learning how to use the filters. And so that's not a problem. I think we can all capture images in any way, shape or form. So there's no hierarchy there. And then the pandemic spiral, I did several photographs again with this spiral image. And if you walk around, there's a lot of spirals out there as well. And then I felt like we were in this spiral. And are we, in the first wave of the spiral, the second wave of the spiral? So I really keep commenting on this. And then back to the seaweed, I just kind of chose my mostly seaweed images for this show, but I would start seeing things that look like lungs, because breathing, our breath was so important during this time of Corona. Whatever you do, as long as the coronavirus doesn't get to your lungs, you'll be okay. And I practice yoga, and so breath is really important. And my neighbor is teaching the neighborhood Tai Chi. So we're all or just like three of us, we go to the neighbor's driveway to teach Tai Chi and learn how to breathe again. So anyway, I think the pandemic has just made me realize what's important in life, as well as that fire. The fire really did made us, we were even called to evacuate here by the beach, and had to choose what was worth taking. And it was interesting what kind of artwork I chose. And anyway, each day the portfolios grew, but the first day I was like, no, it's just our health is most important. Just take care of the people. And then, but just questioning, we should all keep questioning, and it depends what makes us question. But also I just want to say I'm committed to continuing working, being an anti-racist institution. That's what I've been teaching my students up at UC. And that's a lifelong process too. Someone else talked about being a lifelong learner. I think that's something we all need to work on as well. So thank you. Thank you very much.